Hi everyone, my name is Omar. Today I'll be talking about our work on businesses moving online during the COVID-19 pandemic. This work was done in partnership with Square. Right, so we've all probably noticed QR codes exploding over the last year or so. A bunch of businesses have shifted their operations online because of COVID-19, maybe because of a precautionary measure, a government restriction, lack of financial resources, or more. The broad question we're trying to answer is, how big of a comeback was moving online? What specific causes and challenges did businesses face when making this transition? Did COVID-19 rates predict how businesses moved online internationally? Finally, are there any specific factors correlated with moving online? By specific factors, we're talking about things like business type, do restaurants digitize sooner than saloons, or the political orientation, population density, etc. of a region, and more. To do this, we analyzed tens of millions of payments from around 400,000 businesses that remained active during the initial waves of the pandemic, specifically from March 2020 to March 2021. We surveyed 993 businesses and interviewed 5. We quantitatively analyzed the entire dataset using each business's payment activity, while looking at things like government intervention data and COVID-19 rates. More details on how we collected our data can be found in the paper. Before I go any further, let's briefly talk about what I mean by moving online. Moving online is a little more broad than just QR codes. Businesses use things like online stores, QR code menus, online appointments, digital invoices, and more. We consider a business to have moved online if they use any one of these strategies. Now let's look at our initial survey results to characterize challenges and causes associated with digitization. From our survey, we found that over a quarter of businesses cited the pandemic as a reason for moving online. On top of that, of the businesses that cited moving online, about 3/4 referenced a specific government intervention pushing them to bite the bullet. This shift online also happened really quickly. Almost half of our surveyed businesses had to offer an online payment option overnight. 75% needed to do this in under a week. We also sourced open-ended responses from our surveys and interviews. Businesses generally saw COVID as a catalyst for moving payments towards more digital mediums. However, moving online wasn't entirely painless. Businesses had to overcome usability challenges associated with introducing new payment techniques. Although this initial shift happened really quickly, some businesses still viewed moving online as an area of experimentation. Though moving online is a form of future-proofing, the role of online payments for these businesses is something that's still in flux. Moving to our quantitative analysis, let's take a look at broader international trends. We started by identifying if different countries digitized at different rates in our dataset. To quantify the degree of digitization, we used something called an interrupted time series analysis. We looked at the percentage of online businesses on a daily basis. If a business used an online strategy in a given day, we'd count it as online. Then we'd compare the change in digitization following the day of initial COVID interventions for both a treatment and control group. In our case, we just used the prior year, 2018 to 2019, as our control group. The date of the earliest government intervention where a business is located is the interruption. On the slide, it's marked as sometime in March. If we analyze the coefficients of our model, we can identify the level change between the treatment and control groups. There's a bit more detail in how we use ITS. We have a few more interaction variables that let us identify differences in how different business sectors and different regions digitize. To understand these differences, please feel free to look at the paper or pause this slide. Plotting the interruption coefficients from our model, we can see a significant difference in the rate at which business is digitized. We can also convert these coefficients into relative percent increases. Japan sees the lowest percent increase, and Canada sees the highest. Despite lower restrictions and high COVID-19 cases, the US also sees a substantial change in businesses moving online. Japan, although seeing a 49% increase in businesses moving online, has a significantly lower shift compared with other countries. This might be because of an older population, along with an established social preference for using cash. Aside from looking at just initial government interventions, we can also look at more long-standing trends between moving online and COVID rates. Here are a set of graphs for the 5 countries we analyzed. The blue lines are the percentage of businesses taking an online payment on a given day, and the red lines indicate new COVID-19 cases per million people in each country. Qualitatively, we see something interesting. Businesses only see a shift in moving online during the first wave of COVID cases in each country. sometime in March 2020, and they sort of level off. This aligns with something else we saw in our surveys and interviews. Businesses are generally more proactive about moving online, doing it early on. Alright, let's move on to the last part of our paper, focusing on the US. We can now take a look at finer details like state-level political factors or business sectors, because a majority of our dataset resides in the US. To start, here's a figure that captures the sector-level differences in digitization. One interesting observation is that as businesses become more service-oriented, they see less of a shift in moving online. So food and drink, for example, is a more goods-oriented sector, whereas home and repair involves more service work. An interesting exception here is healthcare and fitness. Despite being a service-oriented sector like home and repair, we think the rise of telehealth services are what helped push this sector move online. We can also look at state-level factors or state-level variations in digitization. If we plot the coefficients for our interruption model for districts and states in the US, you'll see that there's significant variation across each region. Interestingly, some of the variation looks like it might be correlated with political orientation. We wanted to look a little closer at this trend, so we performed a regression on state-level factors to find correlations with moving online. We looked at things like restrictions on gatherings, restrictions on internal movement, political orientation, density, and COVID-19 rates, to identify what specific variables correlated with shifting online. First, we found that as restrictions on gathering size increased in relative strictness, post-intervention digitization increased by 1%. Like we initially suspected, we also found that a 1% increase in GOP vote share resulted in a negative 11% decrease in post-intervention digitization. Finally, our regression model indicated more evidence for proactiveness. The COVID-19 rates in a specific region correlated with digitization early in the pandemic. The political orientation result isn't particularly surprising. There is a lot of prior work that highlights the partisan effect on digitization and how social factors affect following COVID norms. What's interesting is seeing this reflect on a second order. While social distancing is directly enforced, moving online is a more proactive and digital measure. Businesses moving online have raised a bunch of interesting questions. One challenge is balancing accessibility and digitization. Because of how quickly businesses moved online, different businesses and older population groups might be alienated by this especially quick shift. Moving online is also correlated with social factors in a region. Things like pre-existing dependencies on cash or political orientation might have affected how quickly a business moved. Throughout our work, we've also noticed a theme on proactiveness. Regardless of what comes ahead, businesses saw moving online as a proactive move in time of uncertainty. A final concern we, and some small businesses have, is a lack of interpersonal interactions as payments move online. This disconnect results in a lack of personalization. Thinking about how future online payment technologies might integrate a more personal touch, something you get from walking in person and having someone help you, is an avenue for future work. Thank you for listening. Please check out our paper for more details, and please feel free to reach out with any and all questions.